Hi friends, I'm Clay Winder with redsign.com or real estate. I have been a real estate agent here in Utah for about 16 years. I literally got licensed January 3rd, 2007, which means I've known the recession, I've known the uptick, gone through COVID, done a lot in my career. I have flipped homes, I have burned homes, bought rental properties, represented custom builders over the years, and got really geeky over some of the great building material and products and methods that can be done there. I've also done some developing, some land developing, and done quite a bit. But I always find my heart and my passion coming back to representing buyers and sellers as a good old-fashioned realtor and helping people make great real estate decisions and building truly legacy wealth through their real estate portfolio. So I thought I would jump on today and just make a good old raw video of Utah County. I have been asked so many times from out-of-state clients and friends, fairly specific, but also just general questions about Utah County, and I think you can really value a realtor's opinion. Somebody like me who's born here in Utah with ancestry that walked across the American continent here to Utah and has born and raised here and knows some of the history, but also has kind of a local perspective. I'm not an economist per se. I'm not even a professional videographer, as you can tell. I'm literally driving here in my car, but I thought this would be good for those that just want a good boots on the ground, real life look at Utah County. So I am driving right now through Utah Valley, and I thought I would start here in the city of Lehi. So Lehi is the northernmost city in Utah County, and Lehi here has consistently for most of my career now, since 2007, been one of the fastest growing cities in all of Utah, but certainly here in Utah County for a lot of different reasons. One simply being location. It is sandwiched between the two largest metro areas here in Utah. Salt Lake City, of course, our capital of Utah, being to the north, and Provo, Orem's the sister city to Provo, south of Lehi. Lehi's kind of a funny name, Lehi. It comes from a place as well as a person illustrated in the Book of Mormon. Remember, Utah was settled by pioneers, is what most of us here in Utah call them, or settlers that were fleeing America about 20 years before the Civil War, fleeing America from persecution. And I say fleeing America because at the time, Utah was a territory of Mexico. And so these settlers wanted to get out of their persecution in kind of the Ohio, Illinois area, and they packed up, they crossed the Mississippi River, and over the course of several years settled here, not just in the Salt Lake Valley, but certainly over time throughout almost all the Rocky Mountains. And then the gold rush pushed people further into California, and you can read a history book on that. But when the settlers came to Utah, they were predominantly of the Mormon, the Latter-day Saint faith, and the Book of Mormon has lots of interesting names in that book, and the people took some of the places talked about in the Book of Mormon and made settlements all across here in Utah. We have a city called Nephi, for example. Nephi is a place and also a person in the Book of Mormon. But we're not talking about Nephi. That's a small little rural town, maybe at some point down in the county south of us, but we're here in Lehi City. And Lehi City, like I said, I wanted to start here because Lehi City has really become such an important part of Utah County. Lehi has some of the most aggressive construction of commercial building. We have more commercial space being built here in Lehi than even downtown Salt Lake City currently, and that's by a lot too. And so there's a lot of jobs here. In fact, I'm just about to drive past a new hospital, and it really has become almost like a third metro area of Utah in terms of job creation and culture as well. So let's jump into a few of those, and I'll show you around. All right, here's a much better view of Utah Valley. Interchangeable Utah Valley, Utah County. This is Lehigh City here that we were just discussing. You can see all the commercial buildings starting to pop up here. I'm standing in the city just west of Lehigh City called Saratoga Springs, and you can see into Utah County down to where the power plant is. That's the steam. It's a natural gas power plant we have giving power to most of the city. At the south end, we won't be able to see it here, but we have windmills here. Believe it or not, it powers a couple of our smaller towns in the south of the county. But as you can see here, it's fall time right now, and we just got our first high elevation snowstorm that came in, dusted the tops of the mountains, and gave us a nice little snow cap. And yep, we're gonna hear the traffic because, like I said, this is a good raw video. So a few things about this area that's important to know, just history-wise, if you kind of want to know how the city is growing and coming together. First, the settlers originally settled in Salt Lake County, but quickly settled down here in Utah County soon after along the lake shore. And we can't really see the lake here, so I'll go get a better view here in just a second. But the name Utah comes from the Native Americans that lived here in Utah. They were the Ute tribe, UTE. Many people know the University of Utah. The mascot is the Ute. And University of Utah is in Salt Lake Valley. But what a lot of people don't know are the Utes actually resided here in Utah Valley. In fact, right behind that mountain, which is Mount Timpanogos. It's a hard name to say, Timpanogos. That is a Native American Ute name for that mountain, and we kept it. And I say we, meaning I guess on behalf of the settlers that came and joined them here in the valley. But the Utes also predominantly resided right behind Mount Timpanogos. We call it Timp for short, we meaning the locals here, because a lot of kids can't even say the whole name Timpanogos, let alone visitors. So they were behind it in the place of Sundance. Now, you've heard of Sundance. Most people have heard of the Sundance Film Festival. Robert Redford fell in love with Utah, gosh, back before I was even born, built the ski resort, started the Sundance Film Festival, but it does not happen in Sundance. It actually happens kind of there behind Lone Peak in Park City. But we do have Sundance, which is part of Utah County, right there behind Mount Timp. And for those of you that are hikers, that's about 11,000 feet. Lone Peak is also about 11,000 feet, and Lone is far harder, in my opinion, to climb than Timp, but Timp is more popular because you've got some amazing, beautiful waterfalls, almost an alpine, an Alps look to it in the back. So Utah Valley, here it is. Let's continue the tour. Again, I'm starting kind of on the north end, and let's kind of get into the culture now and talk about the culture and the housing and how it's coming together. Oh, real quick, here's a good view actually of the new hospital. It's Primary Children's Hospital being built. It's going to create like 1,500 new jobs in the area. It's this big building right here, Primary Children's, Children's Hospital. So lots of growth right here. Even this road looks kind of funny. This is 2100 North. It looks funny because it's good planning. It's a good demonstration of good planning, meaning they have left a wide open space between the eastbound and westbound traffic so that they can have future growth and build a freeway in between. And you can see it connects there to I-15, which connects, of course, north to south, Idaho, all the way down to Southern California through Las Vegas. So this will be it is right now just a wonderful east-west corridor, and someday will be a whole freeway that'll come through all the way up here through Saratoga Springs and wrap into our west mountains here. So infrastructure is good here. We do have a train that comes from, it's called Front Runner, that comes from Salt Lake City all the way down to the metro area of Provo. So you can get up to Jazz games downtown from Utah Valley fairly quickly. Obviously our roads are good here though. We've got lots of infrastructure and investment from some of the federal grants, starting with all the Obama money coming out of the Great Recession, got a lot of the roads built down here. And then more recently, we've had all of the roads here. So you can drive between counties in about 30 minutes is all. So there's lots of people here in Utah Valley that commute to downtown Salt Lake. And there's a lot of people in Salt Lake that commute down here to all the jobs that have been created here in Lehigh. We've got Adobe over here. We've got Entrada. We've got there's a lot of big ones. I about said WeWork because they were huge here, but WeWork has had a rough history, as some of you know. So anyway, we've got great mountainside living here, by the way, very popular. I've done quite a bit of work here in the hillsides of Traverse Mountain. If you look at that, lots of big, nice homes, a lot of wealth there on the mountain. That's one point I'll make. Maybe this is the right time to say it. Utah's kind of funny. We do have kind of a culture that's created that the further up the mountain and the further east you are, this is probably more said for even Salt Lake County, that the more real estate values, the more east and up the mountain usually have a little more value than the west. But it's starting to change because you have a lot of stuff here on the west being built out because you have these views. When you're right up on the mountain, you can't see what's behind you when you're at the base of it. So you've got a lot of folks here that are building right here up on, especially on this little ridge that I'm on, that just has incredible views. So that culture is changing, but it still is kind of the local mentality that, you know, east side versus west side to some degree. And maybe that's me speaking as one who grew up in Salt Lake City, you know, in the Salt Lake Valley. It's not so bad here in Utah County, but it's still something to acknowledge that again, another question that I get sometimes from out-of-town clients getting familiar with Utah is that, and just you know, where's the highest price per square foot versus the lowest price per square foot, and whatnot. So anyway, let's continue. Right, we're headed southbound on Redwood Road, and we've got a great view out in the distance, and it's not great on the video, but that is Mount Nebo, our tallest mountain. Even a lot of locals don't realize that our tallest mountain is Nebo, down on the south end of the valley. It's got some good snow over it off in the distance. But you can see here Utah Lake here. I'll kind of come out this window. Utah Lake is the largest freshwater lake we have here in Utah. It's really shallow. I live right alongside of the lake, love fishing in it. But I am catching catfish and carp and white bass in the lake. It is a natural lake, but we actually have, you know how, you know us humans, we've built a dam. So even though it's a natural lake, it's actually a lot fuller than it was naturally, or it should be. We've been in a drought for 20 years, which I don't think we should even call it a drought anymore. It's just the new reality of Utah. We're getting drier and drier, and you can see all this growth. I used to drive out here as a kid, right where I'm at right now, and this was a single lane road, and there was guys selling beef jerky here on the side. There was a stop sign right up here, and that was the only stop in this whole area, and now we've got just growth everywhere. Because the growth, you know, we're in a valley, as you can see, and so the growth hit the sides of the mountain on the east side and could only expand west. Now we've really hit between the lake and this mountain. We've started to really fill in development all the way to the base of the West Mountains, and so now we've got growth. It's a city called Eagle Mountain. It's now behind these mountains, but that's where the new Facebook data center is. It's massive, and Facebook uses tons of the water from the lake, tons of land out west. It's created lots of jobs. Great partner, great company that we had come into town, put a lot of people to work, brought a lot of people here to Utah as well. We've got Tyson Meat Plant out on that west side as well. Again, this is all behind that mountain that we see here, and again, just incredible job growth and kind of the manufacturing side of things. Manufacturing in terms of Tyson Meat Plant, and then just data center. In fact, right where we were standing before is the NSA's big Utah data center that was all secretive when they built it. They only built it at night. At least that's what it felt like to me. There were helicopters only flying at night for like months. It was interesting. So sometimes little drives like this are nice. You can kind of see a good sense of Utah, a lot of new growth, and stores coming into this area. And I've got a call coming in, guys. Like I said, I'm a realtor, and I'm headed to have an appointment right now, and they're calling me. The river that connects Utah Lake to the Great Salt Lake. And like I mentioned before, the Utah Lake is freshwater. The Great Salt Lake, of course, is salty. And when the settlers came here to Utah and realized that you've got a freshwater body flowing into a saltwater body. It was very similar to Israel with the relationship between the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee. And it is a freshwater river, which is, I guess, unusual is what I hear, flowing north. Freshwater flowing north into saltwater, and that's what we have here in Utah. So here we go, here's the sign. We call it the Jordan River. Yep, just like out of Israel, as if the Utah lake was the Sea of Galilee, having the Jordan River flow water into northbound, I guess, up into the Great Salt Lake. Kind of a fun fact, but we do have the Jordan River right here in Utah. And yes, I'm sure, I guarantee people have been baptized in that river many times. But gosh, I would not recommend it. Again, catfish, carp, a lot of kind of urban, I guess I'll call it wildlife, but I would call it urban wildlife living in that river. Quick little side note on our detour. We're out with some home buyers here looking for potentially building a new construction home here in this neighborhood. And just like we talked about, looking at this lot specifically so that they can get the east view of Mount Temp that we just talked about, and just exploring options. So you get a little day in the life of a realtor on this video. Hope you don't mind, but this is a local builder, Arrive Homes, who is like, you know, a Utah-born local builder. They might be doing a little bit outside of Utah, but I'm not aware of that. Anyway, these are kind of an example of some half-acre lots. These are big. These are all half-acre lots, big park strips, big sidewalks, big setbacks for these homes. And these guys have been my friends for a long time. Sold them rental properties, single-family homes, and they, like many people right now, are looking at having the potential mom and dad moving into the basement. So we're meeting with an Arrive Homes sales agent here to look at, can we find a house that makes sense for them to put an apartment in the basement for potentially mom and dad, and then they still have space for them and their kids that are all here in the car upstairs. But you know, this, you could call it the dream home. So we're looking at, well, what are our mountain views like? We've got Lone Peak up here. How flat is the lot? What do the neighbors look like? And just overall, if this is where they want to raise their young kids here. So anyway, day in the life of a realtor. All right, so let's just rapid fire answer a bunch of common questions that I get from out-of-state buyers or just people that want to know in general about Utah. So first, housing here in Utah, keep in mind, is not very old. We have we settled 1847 is kind of our famous date, and so really nothing in Utah is older than 170 years old, and even that stuff's pretty rare and has already been replaced. So we rarely have, they're out there, but once in a while we'll have a 100-year-old home, but it's not like the East Coast, where it's fairly common to have lots of homes that are 100 years old, 150, 200 years old. We're just newer. You know, we're in the Rocky Mountains, and that's history. So on houses, again, lots of common questions that I get are, do we have water table issues even though we're in a desert and a dry climate? And the answer is yes. We have a lake here. We have a couple lakes here. There are several communities that don't have basements in their communities because the water table's too high, or they only have a crawl space, or even just slab on grade construction. Most homes in Utah do have basements. As real estate professionals, we actually count the basements as square footage. This is a trend you'll see in a lot of western states in the Rocky Mountains, but you don't see that so much on the east side of the country, they just don't count the square footage in their basements. We count square footage based on conditioned space. So if there's a heater that warms the space, especially, it's counted. So if you have space above the garage or in the basement that's air conditioned, then we will count it in our square footage. So keep that in mind as you're browsing and you see a 6,000 square foot home. Holy smokes, that's incredible. Well, keep in mind probably 2,000 square feet of that is in a basement, and it could be an unfinished basement, and they still count it. So keep an eye out for that. Other questions we get: do we have meth houses? You bet. Just like anywhere, we have meth houses. So when you inspect a house, we oftentimes, especially an older home, we recommend meth tests. Radon. We do have lots of radon here in Utah. Radon is that scentless, sightless gas that seeps up from the earth into basements, kind of collects and chokes out the oxygen. And so we do recommend radon tests. Lots of homes have radon pumps, which is really just a fan that sucks up the air and blows it out the roof, either under the pad of in the basement pad, or even literally just sucks up the basement air, spits it out above the gutter line is kind of the rule there. And gosh, what else? Common questions people have. Mold here in Utah. Luckily, because we're an arid climate, a lot drier, mold's not as bad, but we still have it. You get a drip on anything for an extended amount of time, we'll have mold. We'll have black mold just like anywhere. But for the most part, we don't have mold like other climates do in terms of just naturally occurring because of weather or whatnot. So not too bad there. Solar, sun shines everywhere, but not quite as much because we're further up on the latitudinal line, of course. The further north you get, the less solar production you get, but we do have great solar performance here. I've got solar on my house. Lots of people are doing solar now as everywhere. It's not mandated like in California. California's new mandate is all new construction has to have solar. Utah does not have that, and but lots of solar options, as anywhere does. Fireplaces. In Utah, we have an inversion problem where, because we live in bowls, the mountains make kind of a bowl effect. We get some smog in the wintertime, especially with the cold air. The pollution and the smog can kind of get trapped in the bowl, and so we have had a political, real big push on to clean our air over the last few years. One of those big pushes, they have really tried to outlaw wood-burning fireplaces and stoves. You can still have them if you're grandfathered in, but new construction really can't have an indoor wood-burning fireplace. It all has to be a gas-burning fireplace. Lots of just quick facts about that. So let's continue to check out Utah. Hopefully this is helpful. Heading south on the freeway toward Provo-Orem metro area, kind of the heart and center of Utah Valley, Utah County. Right now, we've got a few things to make note of. First, we have two major universities here in Utah Valley. We have Brigham Young University, that has a pretty prominent athletic program, so they're a little more popular. However, our second university, Utah Valley University, is actually larger in student body size, and even literally physically, geographically, very large campus, but because it doesn't have a football team and some of the same athletic programs, not quite as well known throughout the country. But Utah Valley University is in Orem, right here, kind of where we're headed, and Brigham Young University is just a little bit further south and east up against the mountain. You can kind of see it. Utah has a trend here where we like to put university letters on the mountain. If I zoom in, we'll see if we can even see it, but there is a big Y on the mountain for Brigham Young University, and in the Salt Lake Valley we have a big U on the mountain for Utah. Kind of a fun thing. They have lights on and people hike to it. The lights light up when the sports teams win or different events. Kind of a fun little tradition that Utah has. And right here next to Mount Temp, we've got Provo Canyon. That's where you'd head up to Park City, the Heber Midway Valley. We've got a beautiful waterfalls in the canyon, river, a trail system that comes through the canyon, all the way out to Utah Lake to the west, all the way behind us up to Salt Lake. They have plans. They've coordinated the cities and the county and everything to have plans to have one of the largest trail systems in the country and they're just about all connected. We have made a lot of good progress. So very cool if you're a runner, biker, and use a trail system. In fact, several areas now are even having no interaction with traffic, so they're doing pedestrian bridges for the trail system so that bikers and runners and pedestrians just don't have to have any interaction with traffic and whatnot. So very cool trail system that's already mostly in, and they're just connecting more and more. So yeah. All right, welcome to Provo, downtown Provo, kind of the heart of Utah Valley in terms of population and businesses in general. You've got some buildings here that are 6, I think maybe even 7 stories tall. So bigger, city, but not when you compare it to the whole country or even downtown Salt Lake City. But wanted to get you a feel of some of the urban life here, not just the suburbs. And so let's go check it out. It's a Saturday, and so we're catching the farmers market. Real quick, let's talk city planning. You see that 400 West and Center Street? Well, when Brigham Young, the leader of the Mormon settlers, came to Utah, and Brigham Young was also our first governor when Utah went from a Mexican territory to an official state in the United States. He was our first governor. He was quite the settler, and he followed a system of settling communities and encouraging communities to be set up on a grid system. So our cities, especially here in Utah County, each city starts with a street grid system of 0, 0, and then spans out to 100 west, 100 north, or 100 south, 100 east, and we have a grid system. So we're here on Center Street in Provo, which essentially is 0, and if I go north, I'll go up to the next block, which is 100 north, or south to 100 south. We just went from 400 west. Now we're approaching 300 west because I'm walking toward 0, 0. Of course, in Salt Lake City, 0, 0 is a temple, is what they put right at 0, 0. Not all cities have that. Usually it's City Hall or something, of course, civic at their 0, 0. Utah Valley Convention Center, right down here in downtown Provo. Big glass building is Nu Skin, one of our local large companies. Nu Skin is now worldwide. Of course, that's some health products and different things right here in downtown Provo. One interesting thing is all these blocks that we're talking about are 400-foot blocks, and quite a model for most, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of Rocky Mountain settlements with that grid system that I described have 400-foot blocks, and they've maintained them even as there's been gentrification and all that good stuff. It makes for a nice walkable little town feel, even though it's a pretty big city now. Awesome. So downtown Provo is a good example of our transportation that I mentioned. We don't have a train here right in downtown, but we have a MAX bus. What that is a dedicated lane right down the middle of the road that's dedicated to a double long bus, I guess is what you'd call it, that has kind of a dedicated lane, so it can move pretty dang quick down the street and get between the universities. And as you can see, just like a normal train, you'd have the stops here in the middle of the road. So here we've got the courthouse downtown. Nothing too special, but it's kind of a cool building in general. Across the street here's an LDS temple, Latter-day Saint temple. It's actually used to be an old tabernacle built by some early settlers, and it burnt down. Gosh, I want to say 2010 or so. It burnt down, but the brick was still intact, so they remodeled and made the whole thing really pretty spectacular inside. My wife and I got married here. We took our photos right there on the steps. Kind of a fun old building, but made new, and pretty cool church building to get married in or go visit. So yeah, downtown Provo definitely has kind of an old Western feel to it, with the 400-foot blocks and the roof lines of the building. Of course, you got this big glass building right in the middle of it, but they've done a pretty good job of maintaining kind of that, I don't want to call it wild, wild west, but a good Western style setup. Hey, and there's that bus I was just talking about. Sorry, it's noisy and lots of traffic, but it's still good to see what Provo downtown looks like. So cities grow like an onion, of course, with the core being the oldest and the outside being the newest. And our towns and cities are no different. But to put it in perspective, a lot of these homes right here in downtown were indeed built in the late 1800s. So you still have some really cool Victorian style homes. But then, and of course we have gentrification coming in, like anywhere in downtown areas. But you do have some homes built in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s are really what make up a lot of the bungalows that you'll see around the downtown areas and really any of these cities and towns. And then as you get out, of course, we have kind of that atomic era, is what I call it, the 60s and 70s, with some of the flat roof lines and things as we go kind of more toward what ultimately became the suburbs, right? And we've got lots of suburbs with the growth of Utah, which is kind of where we started this video, out in some of the newer communities that are really all grown in the last 30, 40 years. Really even 20 years, we've had just incredible growth. All right, you out-of-staters, welcome to Utah State liquor laws. Utah is a state where the liquor is heavily controlled. Normal grocery stores, gas stations cannot sell liquor. Every restaurant has to have a liquor license, which are really a hot commodity here in Utah because they're not robust. And then if you want to go to a liquor store, you actually have to go to an official state liquor store. So I won't spend this video talking about the alcohol laws here, but they are unique in Utah. There's, like I said, even restaurants that have the liquor licenses also have to have segregated areas on where the liquor is being consumed and served, opposed to some of the restaurant styles. Just some interesting things about Utah, but that is important to know that if you want your favorite bottle of wine or whatnot, you do need to come to an official state liquor store and can't just zip over to like Target and buy your buy your favorite bottle of Chardonnay. Well, let me just clarify two things on that liquor law so I don't create a whole conversation in the comment section here. First, you can buy low amounts of alcohol, like a beer or whatever, in a grocery store, in gas stations, things like that. Grab a hard lemonade, a seltzer, whatever. It's the hard liquors that need to be in the wines and the higher alcohol content that are in the official liquor stores. And then number two, on the restaurant thing, this is something that a lot of my friends from out of state do notice when we go to restaurants, and that is you can get a drink sitting at your restaurant table and it's no problem because you're ordering food. There's kind of an interesting law here, and I'm no expert on it, but if you're ordering food, you're fine. If you're ordering just a drink though with no food, then that's when they want kind of segregated to, you know, a bar atmosphere and whatnot. So Utah's funny with the liquor law, but they're holding on strong, and they want to control it, and they're just very mindful of alcohol here in conservative Utah. All right, here's a good little shot, of course, right when I go under the bridge, of Utah Valley University. You can see the pedestrian bridge that recently went in. But right over here we have Utah Valley University, which is, like I mentioned earlier, one of the largest universities here in Utah County. So fun, famous people from Utah County. We do have, bands. Imagine Dragons. They went to UVU right here. The Used, Burt McCracken's here from Orem. Lead singer of The Used. Neon Trees here from Utah County. What other famous people have we had in here? Utah has plenty of famous people, but I'm thinking specifically from this community. Up in Sundance, we do have the Cirque, which is the rehab center for lots of celebrities. Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, but that doesn't make us famous. That's just the sad truth of a nice little escape for people in recovery to come visit the mountains here in Utah. Of course, we have Steve Young, NFL quarterback for the 49ers through my whole childhood, lives right over here in the neighborhood down here. We also have Stephen Covey, for those of you business readers that read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey, who created Franklin Covey, that's a world-renowned consulting firm right here in this area as well. So Utah County has been put on the map by a few people. It's not big, but we've got a few famous people. Here's a much better view of Utah Lake. It's pretty low right now because of the obvious drought in the western United States. Funny, we're getting more water in the eastern side of the United States, but not in the western. And just is what it is. But you can see our trail system too. This is one of the many trails that I described earlier in the video. But I wanted to show it's pretty spectacular to have just this massive lake right here in the middle of Utah Valley that it's had a little abuse over the years, but there's been so much money and so much time and effort politically and volunteer-wise to really restore the lake. And we've got some good wildlife coming back. And like I said, I like to fish in it. A lot of people do. A lot of people boat on it. It's really shallow. The average depth in this lake is only 7 or 8 feet. So it's warm during the summer, really warm water, but it also gets a little muddy when it gets windy because it is so shallow. And some people don't like to recreate on it because it does get a little muddy at times, but a lot of people do because it's good warm water and it's so big. You just don't get a lot of traffic out on the lake. In fact, there's not a single boat. Granted, it's colder. It's fall time right now, so there's not a lake. There's no boats out there. We have a lot of people that do shoot, and I don't even know the name of it. It's like parasailing or hang gliding, but with a motorized fan. I just call them gliders, but they're all over here on the shoreline on the weekends. So we'll probably see them out tonight if it doesn't get too cold. And kind of a unique thing about this area. All right, friends, I'm going to sign off. If you have any questions at all or want to jump on a phone call, please call me. You can Google Clay Winder. You can, even better, Google our real estate team, Red Sign Team here in Utah. We'd love to jump on a Zoom call, phone call. If you're going to fly out here, let me pick you up from the airport. Let's show you around town and see if Utah Valley is the right place for you to move to. I appreciate it. And check out our other YouTube videos, our podcast, Red Sign Podcast. And hopefully there's some good content here to help you learn about the area, learn about the culture, the attractions, the amenities, and you can make some good real estate decisions. Thanks for joining me. Catch you on another video.